There it is. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the developers and to let them talk about things, show you what they're thinking, but just make sure you leave enough time at the end because the community will have suggestions or different comments as well. Okay? Take it over.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Lee. We really appreciate the opportunity. My name is Sean Scott. I'm with Century Communities, and I'm here in the same room with Brandon Tomlin. And we have our engineer from Catalyst, Jeff Hines, who's also traveling. So please be mindful and appreciate Jeff being able to jump on. We're really excited to be able to bring this community to this community meeting. This is on Old Hickory Road. We are calling it Summerbrook. And so we kind of will lead off with that. And I'll ask Jeff if he could share and kind of walk through the development as a whole, and then we'll kind of come back to questions and feedback from the community.
Yeah, Melanie.
When you tell us, though, will you describe specifically where that is? Because you know we've got a lot of area on hold.
We have a map. Melanie, if you could give me permission to share.
You should be able to share.
Okay, got it.
Maybe I'm the only one that needs descriptions instead of just a map. So
let me go full screen. All right, can everybody see that?
It's sharing through. Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me page down. This worked last time. Oh.
You probably need to go to presentation instead of full screen. I think.
Yeah, well, okay. All right. So just a brief outline. We're going to familiarize you with the site and what the zoning and the policy is today. I'll explain all that to you folks. And then we'll talk about the site plan and kind of walk through the residential product that Century Communities is looking at here. So this is Old Hickory Boulevard. This is Clover Glen, the project that Meritage Homes built over here. So Whittemore Lane right there where Old Hickory comes into and Whittemore tees into Old Hickory. The property here is 37 acres. And we'll see an aerial in a minute, but kind of a mix of treed areas. It has some a stream that crosses it in a east-west direction. You can see a little bit of the tree line there where that happens. And then Burkett Road down here to the south, we do not connect in any way to Burkett, but hopefully that gives you a little orientation. So here is the map I was mentioning. This is the site right here, Old Hickory Boulevard coming across and winding its way as it does to the north, coming across here, but Hickory Hills here, Clover Glen immediately, I guess 3 properties to the east, October Woods, I-24, and of course Nolensville Road out here. There's Burkett coming across from over here at Burkett Place and Burkett Springs. Of course, King Ridge Park is down in this area where you see my cursor circling. Once again, we are in an area that the current zoning is agricultural, but the policy for this area is T3 neighborhood evolving. And for those of you that are on here that haven't done a lot of the community meetings, every property in Nashville has 2 policy areas. One is the zoning it is currently, and then the second is the policy per Nashville Next, which back in the early 2000s, Nashville community got together and by the different areas of Davidson County divided up, had a bunch of community meetings and looked at their vision for how Nashville should develop long term. And that is what the T3 NE, And basically T3 means a suburban transect, and NE is neighborhood evolving, which basically says there are policies that say neighborhoods should be maintenance policy, which any new homes should be similar in size, have similar setbacks, etc. Evolving policy says that the area is open to new types of housing being introduced, kind of a mix of housing to hit various price points, a little bit of, blending of the housing styles to kind of meet the needs of the community. So that is the two things assigned to this property. The existing zoning is AR2A, which this would be a proposed rezoning to specific plan, which we'll talk about in a minute here. So this is the site plan. Out here is Old Hickory Boulevard, and this is Clover Glen to the north here. You see a purple arrow. These are the two parcels of land, and actually a third one back here that exists between this 37 acres and the Clover Glen development here to the what would be the east. North is actually to the left in this drawing. So what is proposed is 137 total residences, of which 69 would be single family lots, single family residential back here in the rear portion of the site, and the front portion would be 68 townhome residences. And we'll show you imagery of both of those in a minute. A new entrance coming off Old Hickory, and Old Hickory would be widened across the entire frontage of this property, similar to what happened up here at Clover Glen with the widening when that community went in. So basically it sets up where it's wide enough to actually have a center turn lane into the development on Old Hickory. So I know one of the sensitivities that Councilmember Lee has expressed is just traffic on Old Hickory and, the safety of that road. Certainly widening it across this property is part of the scope. What you also see in this plan is Clover Glen had a stub out of a street when they developed their community right here, and we would be aligning a street. This wouldn't connect day one, but at some point when these parcels develop, then that street would connect across. And also we would be providing a stub out to what would be the west for future parcels, if and when those properties develop. So one of the things I'll point out while we're at this scale, we're going to enlarge and kind of show you this portion of the site in a detailed scale in a moment here, is we set the townhomes front toward Old Hickory Boulevard. We set them back a similar distance to what occurs up here in Clover Glen, just so you can kind of get a visual picture of the area. We have a 50-foot setback from the future right-of-way to those residences. All of the townhomes are alley-loaded garages, two-car garages, so there are no street cuts or driveway cuts out here off the road, with the exception of those that go to the alleyways. And then back here, we have single-family lots that will have garages with those homes as well. We'll show you imagery. Of course, they would have a driveway cut off these roadways. The portion of the site we're preserving, well over 30% of this site in natural area. One of those areas is about 1.25 acres of tree cover and natural area out here. So one of the sensitivities when we initially discussed this with Councilmember Lee was just the visibility of townhomes from out here on Old Hickory. So we're preserving that entire area, which is solid tree stand in that area, 1.3 acres. And then back here are some steeper areas of the property that we are also preserving in their natural state and introducing a walking trail back behind the lots up into the hillside here. So that's the vision, how to use that area of the site. As I mentioned, this is an enlargement of, let me page up, of this portion of the site, kind of drilling down into a larger scale so you can see that. So here are the residences that front out toward Old Hickory. Of course, we would be building sidewalks and as required, widening the road. And that is part of what Metro would want us to do with this. Here is the preserved open space, 1.35 acres. There is a drainage way down through here, but basically this is solid trees. So that's one of the things we saw as a way to respect what the site was telling us, just looking at it naturally. And then these townhomes here front the new public street. This street would be built wide enough to allow for on-street parking, so when guests come, but all of the residences would have a two-car garage access from the private alleys that you see labeled on this drawing. And then midpoint here, one of the things that Councilmember Lee said was an issue in some communities was, given the straightness of this road, would just be speeding. And we're going to work with NDOT to do a speed table to slow traffic right here aligning with the park. And, you know, that's one of the things that we'd have in the SP. And the SP basically is specific plan zoning. So what we're showing you today as far as architecture layout goes with the zoning. You specify the materials that are allowed to be used, the heights of the buildings, the stories, you know, the architectural look of those in terms of the fenestration and kind of just the overall character. So we'll show you some of that in a moment here. But that is what SP zoning does differently than a straight rezoning, which doesn't tie those types of factors back to the zoning. So this is a proposed SP. Once again, that stands for specific plan. So you see the layout of alleys, you know, the commitment to rear load these, so the fronts of the residences will look out toward the public street. And then this is a table that kind of shows, so we have two districts, District 1 in the yellow, which is the single family homes. District 2 are the townhomes. And there are criteria. I talked about the numbers: 69 single family, 68 townhomes, 2.5 stories for basically just a dormer window up in the attic, and 2.5 stories on the townhomes as well. No 3-story residences are proposed in this whatsoever. The overall density for this, Councilmember, you kind of mentioned that being a sensitive factor, is 3.7 units to the acre, which is very low as far as the overall policy range with that neighborhood evolving, which I think is one thing that Century Communities, you know, did a great commitment to in terms of preserving the hillside and the natural areas to keep trees on this property. And let me show you a little bit. So this is the townhome product. As far as this would be a 4-unit building. We have a mix of some 3s, some 4s, some 5s, and I think there's 1 or 2 6s that front one another by the park area there. So this is kind of the character you see of the townhome product. And then you see here different models of the single family. It is a garage loaded off the public street. But these do have porch elements, stoop elements, some of the things that I think are rather popular in communities. And then we also threw in, we would have a playground area as part of the commitment, you know, back with the trail up through the hillside, walking trail, open space. We would program in some ways, either, you know, community fire pits is one thing that a lot of communities we're working with Century on do that. You know, whether you do like 3 disc golf goals, but those types of features would be in the open space for use by the community. So I know Councilmember Lee has worked with Century Communities in her prior district limits, but I'm not sure the folks on this call in this area, Sean, and you may be able to address that if you have anything close by. But I did want to mention that it is a familiar group to at least the council member. Multiple projects over more toward Percy Priest Lake area a little bit.
Yep, Jeff, you're absolutely right. And this is Brandon Tomlin. I'm also on Sean's computer right now too. But that's absolutely right. This would be our first major project in this district or this area with Councilmember Lee. And really to kind of, you hit a lot of the high points of the product that we're proposing in this area. And so looking at it, at Centric Communities, our goal is really to provide a home for every dream. And that's really how we selected these floor plans for Summerbrook and how we designed the community to feature these products. And so right there at the top left would be the townhome product that we are proposing here. So we're really sticking to that modern farmhouse feel. And I don't know how large that picture is on y'all's screen, but to kind of call out some of what those features are on the front elevations there. So we really do have a blend between that James Hardy cement board and batten board, as well as stone and brick features as well. So it really kind of breaks up the aesthetics there and really adds to the streetscape. Kind of as Jeff mentioned earlier, there's only going to be 4 of those fronting Old Hickory Boulevard. The rest are really tucked back into our community there. And those townhomes are alley load, like you said. So with those 2-car garages, they're going to range somewhere between 17 to 1,800 square feet. And then also, like you said, with that additional parking throughout. So the actual homeowners will have their 2-car garage and driveway, but then allowing ample street parking as well for any guests or family members that join them. With a single family detached, there are a handful of photos sprinkled throughout that slide as well. We're really looking at a community of this size to have about 3 to 5 different individual floor plans that we can offer to homeowners. Those will range somewhere between 1,900 square feet to 2,600 square feet. All are 2-car garage with a large driveway out front too. So lots of parking, lots of different spaces for that. Those garages will be set back from the porches, so it's really a distinct feature to have that porch and the front elements of the home forward instead of the garage there. And then each of those floor plans will also feature a variety of different elevations. And so what we refer to as an elevation is what the house looks like from the street. And so each of those different floor plans will have about 3 different unique elevations to them with a variety of different color schemes as well. And so we really want to be able to break up what that will look like in the streetscape and really differentiate that product. So as you're driving down, it's not just a single cookie cutter for each one. And then, Twan, I did see a question come through with how many bedrooms. We typically start somewhere around 3 bedrooms and go up to 5 bedrooms, just depending on the various floor plans and how those break out. And then bathrooms are somewhere between 2.5 up to 3.5 to 4 bathrooms as well, just depending. And so to your point, the 5 bedrooms in one house, yep, when we get up to that larger square footage, it's either a flex space or an office or something that can be converted into that. But also to kind of hit on what those front elevations would look like, it's still going to be kind of that same different products that we can put on those elevations. So that James Hardy board and batten or cement siding, stone, brick, combinations of that to really give a good streetscape and a good feel to all of what those homes look like as well. And then like Jeff spoke to with the amenities, we're really trying to utilize the natural beauty of this area and of this parcel. So Jeff kind of mentioned the 30% retainage of the natural area. When you calculate all the open space and common space and green spaces there, it's close to about 40% or 16 acres out of this 37. And so that really leaning into preserving as much of the natural beauty in this area, and then also utilizing it for our amenities, such as a nature trail through the back portion there. And like you said about the disc golf, we're trying to get creative with how we can kind of bolster that community feel, and really think that adding a couple of those disc golf goals throughout would just benefit the community as well. Obviously, having a custom playground to fit into those common spaces as well, and then lots of just open fields and things of that nature to kind of allow families to have recreational opportunities in those areas. Once again, all of these are really designed to bolster the natural beauty of those surroundings and promote that strong sense of community.
And Brandon, I'll add, I mentioned the kind of the stream that bisects the property.
Yeah.
There are actually two of them. You see my cursor kind of highlighting those right now. They come onto the site and then they join together and basically continues down as a stream through this area. So certainly we're keeping buffers from that area and setting back extra far. These townhomes here would actually front the stream, and you have a little parking area and common area here to the side of that. So this is the park area that would be shared by residents in through here. And this is the only, I believe, these two are the 6-unit ones. As Brandon mentioned, the one fronting Old Hickory is exactly what you see in that elevation, is that 4-unit townhome building. So with that, let me put this slide up and see what questions you folks may have, and we'll try to certainly answer all those.
Thank you so very much.
I had my hand up there.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'd like to ask, first of all, you're trying to do something with keep the, it's commendable trying to keep some of the area in forest. So my question is, why do you have to have any townhomes kind of present in view on Old Hickory Boulevard, where you just could, put it back and keep the canopy? It looks like there's canopy all the way to the Old Hickory Boulevard up to the, first 2 townhome areas.
Yeah, there's a tree line along here, if you can see my cursor going, and
Yeah,
there are some trees in this area as well. And we could even look at keeping some of those. One thing that, and I'll say this from experience, is Metro Planning normally wants some of the residential to front onto the major street. The days of, and I think we probably have all seen it in older subdivisions where they back up to the streets and kind of the rear yard is back there with the fence and some landscaping. The thinking now is to at least front streets with units. So
whose thinking is that? I mean, it's not our thinking.
Metro Planning will ask for that in the design. And since this is an SP, staff gets to weigh in on that. But the same way that existing homes on the opposite side of the road front the road, they don't turn their back to them, their front door. They just ask now, they don't specify what type of residence, but they do want a residence with its front door toward Old Hickory Boulevard at least. It can sit back some. It doesn't, we are sitting back 50 feet. I think I mentioned that. So
yeah, let me just interject that, the whole purpose of having it kind of keeping that natural area in the front, that's great. But, I know that the people who live in the homes, including us on the other side of Old Hickory Boulevard, would appreciate not having, new townhouses right there on the, view right there, within their, where they walk out in their front yards near the street, because the character of the neighborhood is, more rural, and it's still an opportunity to keep that from getting completely changed when new subdivisions like this are being planned. So I'd propose that, just as one thing, that regardless of what Metro likes to see for some reason, I think we would like to see it set back there.
Okay. So the distance is more where trees could be preserved in the front yard and or additional landscaping added would be your preference.
Well, just to maybe not have at least the one townhouse between Old Hickory. I mean, there's like 4 townhouses, but they're in a group there. The ones
Right.
closest to the road, not have them there, and maybe put them in the back somewhere, or not have it at all, and just leave the trees at that area.
Yeah, I think we can take that into consideration and take a look at it.
Yeah, that's the minimum that would seem to be with all the other, because the neighbors who have moved here for the rural character definitely like to see that retained as much as possible. Us
Okay.
being one of them.
Okay.
What else?
Somebody else?
I put a whole slew of questions in the chat.
That sounded
Okay,
like
we're supposed to have somebody watching the chat as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so question is what is the purple street? Jeff?
the purple street is a future connection across these properties whenever they were to develop. You can see that Clover Glen has a stub street here. Therefore, we have a stub street that aligns with that. And from a planning standpoint, they would want connectivity between those two whenever this person, were to choose to develop their land. May never happen, but planning will want that allowance. And then down here, a similar one. There isn't an existing development here, but of course, this would allow a connection out to Whittemore at some point, someday, were these parcels to develop.
Okay. Comment is there are 8 to 10 sinkholes, big sinkholes. There are 2 caves, extremely steep slopes. Stream has fish, crayfish, etc. Needs more buffer. Everything leaving as green space is where you can't build. How much undisturbed green space? Disc golf, largest play space is a mile away and don't want to compete with them. Don't want to view off Old Hickory. So I think one of the points would be is we hire a specialist to come in and do a water resource inventory and a hydrology report on that area, and we are very mindful of all of those issues when we go through our design standard. Is that correct, Jeff?
Yeah, this is a stream through here. This is not a stream classification. So that is not a required preserve, but it is a low area that we think would be a good area to preserve and keep the tree cover where it buffers this neighborhood. So
With all due respect, we have experienced nearby all the damage that occurs with a not a stream and not having great enough buffers on the not a streams, and the underground caverns carrying these not a stream waters to the actual streams, and it made an absolute mess of Turkey Creek. We had to have meetings with Metro Water over it. So due respect to your hydrologist, we have experienced this 2 other times previously. And what's very visible from the state of Tennessee's LIDAR and other LIDAR maps and the old all the maps that are online is that there are slopes of up to 45% around these areas. There are sinkholes that are 15 plus feet deep. And we know from experience, we're going to experience the same problems we previously had. Did y'all do a dye test on this?
A dye test on the sinkholes?
Yes.
We have not. And once again, from a standpoint of there are a few back at the base of the slopes coming down. That's the area we are preserving, all of that area. We preserved anything approaching over a 15% slope. So anything the higher teens into the 20s, we have left alone back here. So that's one of the things. This is all preserved area, which is the ridge that runs kind of down through this area. If you can see my cursor.
I do see it, and what I'm saying is it's too close. Can you do an overlay with a LiDAR? Do you have that?
Yeah, we have topography. I can't do it now, but you know, that's something I guess we can produce and put on a website for this and share. But we did have both geotechnical and environmental on the property. And, you know, once again, the sinkholes you're referencing, Twana, there are a few back here on these slopes at the base, but there aren't any out in the developable area of the site.
Are you building on grade?
Pretty much, yes. There's not a ton of slope in through this area. Basically, you can see here, I have to get out of presentation mode to do this, but I can zoom in then. Let me reshare.
And while you're getting that up, the disc golf over at Cane Ridge Park is the site of numerous tournaments and whatnot. It does tear up the forest pretty significantly because it creates an enormous amount of foot traffic. There's also associated trash, and it just has a lot of impact on the forest.
Yeah,
So
we're not talking
Our intent would not be to compete. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, you're saying the same thing. I
Yeah.
mean, this is one to put a couple baskets for the residents to use in an area like that common area. This isn't a course that would be open for public play.
No, and then two, because of the townhomes, we would have HOA that we've been maintaining all of the common space throughout the community. Except, you know, with the exception of the single-family homes, they would be responsible for their own yards. The remainder of the common space would be HOA maintained and kept up. So, trash, lawn maintenance, upkeep of all of those common areas would be part of the HOA.
So there's a little bit, you can kind of see the topography in through that area. We slope from the base of the hill. Back
It's
in
not-
through here, there's
showing. Sorry,
I'm
it's
sorry.
not screen shared.
Oh, sorry. Hang on.
While he's doing that, I will say another item that we wanted to communicate to was renting. We are a builder and developer. We are not a build for rent company. We build for individuals to be able to buy homes. And so part of our commitment too is in our HOA, we will regulate the number of single ownership of multiple properties so that we're not creating an opportunity in those townhomes or even in the single family homes that would allow for multiple units to be owned by an individual.
So the topography on this area, it's ghosted back in here. You know, once again, if we're going to do more detail, we can give that to you. But So the we're into right in here is a little 15%. All the 20s begin back in through this area at the rear of these lots. But you can see the slope through this area basically slopes from the foothills that limited that down toward the stream. Similar up here, we have kind of a plateau area right here, a field area that slopes off both ways. The majority of it comes to this stream. So we're not into steep areas of this site. That's one of the things I think in just developing the plan and staying at 3.7 units to the acre, you know, we're not pushing the boundaries on some of those areas. And we do have 60-foot buffers shown, and we're over and above that to our first units in through here. Same thing on this side, same thing over here. So I know showing it on here, but we can put dimensions on there, you know, those types of things going forward. Thought it would help to see a little more detail. I don't think you were on here. We looked at this in detail as one of the slides earlier, Tawana.
A retention pond or something popped up in the
Yeah,
chat.
there was a question. Yep. Are there retention ponds or detention ponds?
Well, it depends if water quality, and Jack Parker's on here too, but if there's two avenues for going through Metro stormwater. One would be just to have detention and have a water quality unit, but that would require an exemption due to steep slopes on the site. The other one is to do water quality with rain gardens and those types of features. So depth to rock is one thing that, you know, we'd still have to make a decision on which of those. But yes, there are stormwater basins. There's areas that basically are on the outskirts of these features that we would capture stormwater in and treat by either of those procedures.
Jeff, there was also a question earlier about what are the proposed sewer line plans? I know it's probably very early to establish that, but
yeah, it is. We got our availability letter from Metro, and that's one of the things that we still need to work through the details of. You know, certainly the low area of the property is coming from this side. So we made sure capacity was there in the system. Picking a final routing and working through the details has not happened yet.
okay.
We had a couple questions here. If we the units in the furthest off Old Hickory Boulevard, you say there's single homes back there?
Yeah. The yellow?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are fee simple lots with single family homes.
And what's the size of the lots?
Those are 50 by 110. So they're about 50 by 110.
50 by 100.
5,800 to some of them are 7,000 square foot.
Yeah.
But
very similar to what's up here in Clover Glen.
Yeah, it's about 10 to 15% more than some of the neighborhood adjacents.
10 to 15% more.
Larger size lots.
Larger size lots.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
These lots here get up to probably 10,000 square feet if you see my cursor, just because of the depth and how they flare out. They back up to the open space. So
yeah. The creek, the stream that goes between the townhomes and the single units. What kind of permission? Well, yeah, I mean, Tawana had mentioned that and I agree. We agree. It's kind of right, especially where there's, right up to the townhomes. There's hardly any buffer there. Right there, where it curves and. Yeah, I see you're putting, yeah, okay.
It's the center line.
Right.
Yep.
And behind the townhomes, there's hardly any buffer. Now, the rest of it, there's still some of the,
I don't know if it's just me or what. Whoever is speaking now, it's not coming in
Councilmember Lee, I believe it may be your connection.
Yeah, yeah, but we're just saying that there, you know, it won't really. You okay, Antoinette, Councilmember Lee? Yeah, it just seems like at that point where the road crosses, I mean, I guess there'll be some kind of a big, what, culvert or some kind of a big, what's it going to be? What's it going to?
Either a box bridge or a bottomless culvert is what the state will require, TDEC will require in order to natural bottom on that stream.
Right. I guess obviously keep the so the fish and the crayfish and all that are able to move and
Right.
But I guess there is kind of a I would recommend having a little more of a buffer where you see the townhomes and there's some grassy area over there. It looks like they'd be coming right up to the stream.
Recommend a tree buffer.
Having a tree buffer there.
How much?
All right, I made a note of that. And of course, this dash line you see there is a 60-foot buffer from the center line of that stream. So that's the minimum for a disturbed and degraded stream. And
That means 30 feet each side?
no, 60 each side.
Okay, but the sewer would perhaps be running through there, which disturbs it, or no?
No, the sewer would have to be outside that.
Ask if that buffer can be.
Yeah.
30
So that
foot undisturbed is what Metro's ordinance is. 20, you probably know it as well as me, but 30 foot totally undisturbed. In the outer 30 foot, you can do some improvements, but what we typically do is we're running outside that, and then we would cross the creek. We'd try to see if we could go over top the box if there's enough depth and put the sewer in that fill above the bridge or box crossing right here. That's typically the easier way. The other one would be to parallel the roadway here and run the sewer from one side to the other, whichever side it's on, coming up the drain from one side to the other. So minimizing any disturbance to that stream.
Yeah, I'm going to get back to that. And just to follow up on the buffer on the townhome side of the stream there, where it's kind of open without anything, we really we strongly recommend to have like a tree, something in there that covers that, you know, protects it rather than have it open, you know, lawn or something like that. You need something to keep the, you know, absorb the whatever is coming out from above when it's going towards the creek.
I think we can work on that.
Yeah.
And
what do you want to say, Tricia?
I would like to revisit the sewer system. I know that the Clover Glen, I believe they they have to have a pumping system, and I'm not really sure what I'm talking about
Lift station is I don't know the circumstances of what they have currently, but Metro, what they want, if there's a lift station, is eventually when, if you look at it, that the neighborhood builds out. Let me zoom out a little bit. What Metro will do is they would locate that in an area that temporarily pumps it back to another sewer system, but eventually when sewer is brought all the way up the drain, that it would then, the lift station would be taken out and it would gravity flow.
Okay. When the Clover Glen went into operation, they only notified the homes on the, I guess that would be the south side of Old Hickory. They were the only ones allowed to tie into that sewer system, from what I vaguely remember. It would be nice to have other options available for homeowners along Old Hickory. I know this is probably premature, but just putting that out there.
Well, the one thing I would say, just in order to sewer the project that Century is proposing here, you would have public sewer. If you see my cursor, here, let me do that color for you. You would have, to wherever this last residence is, you would have a public sewer up to that point, and certainly I don't think it's any big deal to extend it to there. The problem is the road is kind of on the, well, some of these homes sit above the road, some of them start to sit down below it. So whether there would be gravity flow back to that point from any of these homes is one thing you'd have to investigate. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So
I know
if a service line could come out of the residence and hit the invert of that system, and the invert of that could be put, you know, relatively deep, 7, 8 feet or something like that at that point, to try and enable some of the tie-ons. I think that is also something that could be worked through. Where are you folks located?
We're across from Clover Glen,
Okay, so you're further up. Okay.
just slightly
Yeah,
further up.
just above where you see the top of the map there. Just right next. I'm not sure.
We're the last house
Yeah, you're
before the.
probably off the park is up there, of course. We just didn't take the base
Right,
that far.
right.
We're somewhere around there.
We're next to the
Here.
15 acres of wooded property.
Yeah. Well, the low point that would actually serve there would probably be somebody developing these parcels and a sewer running up that drain right there that you see.
All of the majority of homes here, you know, are septic, you know, the
Right.
systems, and that's not feasible really long term. And I don't think, of course, it's
And
been long term.
Yeah, if you pump it out,
you never know. I mean, there's areas I've seen septic systems, you know, 70 years old, and I've seen some that'll fail at 20, 25. You know, it is an unknown. A lot of it depends on the soil type.
Yeah.
That's your leach fields are probably behind your house.
Actually,
not
it's in front of it, heading
in the
towards
front yard?
the
Okay.
Old Hickory. We sit back
Okay.
about 450 feet from the road, and it's in front of our house.
Okay.
And the house is about 45 years old.
Well, the actual long-term solution would be, once the sewer's brought to here, that I think would be able to service you. I think these homes might be able to get a service line to the public sewer there. I don't think there would be, I mean, there may be the possibility of running a gravity line, but it would be tough because there's a high point in the where that future collector road is shown to come through here. If you look at Metro GIS, the high point of Old Hickory is somewhere right around here. And that is probably, if you guys are up here, it probably means that for you to get gravity service, it would need to be in that direction, and the sewer would need to continue up that drain.
Okay, thank you. Could you talk about the road improvements, please?
Yeah. One thing, if you see what Clover Glen did as far as building out the curb, now they put all of the extra width, they just striped it into extra wide paving on their side of the road. I think what we would propose to do would be to stripe a center lane that could be used as a turn lane into this property, coming, you know, when you're westbound on Old Hickory, and would make for a safer turn in. Of course, all those improvements get widened on our side of the road.
I
right
had a
away.
to-go order for Caitlin.
Not sure what that was, but
Right.
So similar to Clover Glen, if you visualize that, what they did there, the difference would be they just took all that extra width of paving
No,
that
I'm
is
good.
controlled by the major collector street plan and striped it as just excess asphalt on their side. I think we would try and utilize that extra width of pavement.
All right, if you're not speaking, would you check please and see if your volume is up? Because we were having some strange noises coming on. Thank you.
One more thing about the turn-ins, the Clover Glen turn-in. When we're turning into our driveway, we have cars that pass us all the time on the turn-in side. It's really dangerous. In fact, we've had 3 people killed in front of our house since we've been there for 28 years now.
But it's worse when they pass you on the
Yeah,
other
sometimes they
side.
pass us on the other
Which they
side.
do.
It's really a bad road for traffic. Seriously
And
dangerous.
that's one big issue because
Yeah.
getting out of the driveway sometimes it's hard enough. And then when you have traffic coming out of different, so many more units, it really, and one of the big issues around this part of the county and probably all over is the infrastructure is just not, keeping up with the development. And so it would be really good to see what kind of plans there are or ideas there are for
Road
the
improvement.
road.
Yeah.
I jump in. I've had my hand up for a while.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I made that a
Um,
note of looking at and kind of detailing that widening plan out front on Old Hickory.
So
Tawana,
ahead, Tawana.
the widening plan, I am strongly against a straight widening plan because it will extend the racetrack. There's going to have to be a better solution than that. And you're talking about bringing hundreds more people out to a point where they already accelerate to 60 and 65 miles an hour. So that's definitely, to me, kind of a non-starter until there's some kind of good plan for that. I also wanted to ask about the cemetery that's in the back. And I see one of the Joneses is on here. Maybe he'll have some other info, but Metro Historical is doing a survey, and this is one of the ones that they're supposed to revisit. And there's the appearance that there's an African American side which may extend onto this property. So I want to know, 1, do you even know about it? And 2, has it been investigated? That's the first question.
Has not had an architectural study done on it yet. So I think we saw the marker for that. Once again, first thing would be to have it surveyed and find the limits of that. The marker is down in this area, the preserved open space. So that's one thing, we'll still map out everything and find the limits of that. And certainly that'll end up in open space being preserved and have a gateway sidewalk, iron fence, aluminum fence, whatever around it, as part of ceremonially preserving that.
Usually the recommendation to keep them historical is to leave them in their state except for just cleanup and free fall and that sort of thing, but we can talk about that later. It does need to be
The
better.
state, I was going to say, has a requirement that you are supposed to put a containment, I think is the word, they might say fence around it. But yeah, we can work through the details.
So this is James Jones. I'm not aware of any cemetery plots on the property.
It's the Bush Nance Cemetery, and the primary part of it is on the adjacent property. But my recollection is that it runs down the hill onto this property. There's a Vinca, which is known as the cemetery plant up there, and Metro Historical just had commented that it needed to be checked to make sure the extent of the cemetery.
Well, we've had this property in my family for 50 years, and I've never known of any cemetery plots on this property. I have other properties that have cemetery plots, but I've never been aware of any plots on this property.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think we'll just leave it that we'll make sure, wherever that marker is, and they can be wrong, as far as having that looked at and investigated.
Thank you.
I'm
And I
gonna
can
zoom in
put
on
you in.
on Metro GIS just so everybody can see what we're talking about there.
I can put you in touch with the people doing the survey if need be. And then also just wanted to mention an invasive removal plan is something we're asking every developer for out here. So I just want to put that on your radar. It doesn't need to be solved tonight. How many bedrooms total are you talking about in the whole site?
Well, that depends on the mix of the housing plans, because the housing plans have some are 3 and some are up to 4 or 5 bedrooms. The townhomes, Sean and Brandon, are all what, 3 or?
Correct.
Yeah, they're 3 bedrooms. And the average home would be on the single family detached in the yellow would probably be in that 3 to 4 bedroom range.
Absolutely.
So 3 times how many townhomes?
68.
Townhomes,
Yes.
69 single family.
Okay, I'm not a math person, so we'll have to do some math, but that's an awful lot of potential individuals coming and going through one intersection. What's the school's impact?
Metro, I mean, once again, we have not even filed this yet, so this is the first conversation after we spoke with the council member. That'll be looked at as part of planning going through this and, looking at generation of kids by their formulas. So,
Well, my first thoughts are that if the number of bedrooms was reduced, which means the square footage of the houses reduced and the lots on the back reduced a little bit, you'd be able to come further away from a drainage area back there that's running underground. And like I said, I believe it comes out in the Whittemore Cave area. That would solve a lot of the problems getting it further away from that, because I asked kind of a hypothetical question. How do you control the chemicals people are using on those yards? And the answer is you really can't. It is going to end up in the water. So the further away it can be moved, the better that would be. And if the density was reduced, it would cost you less to develop, it have less environmental impact, and it would discourage having quite as many kids in this area, which would be a drain on our at capacity and over capacity nearby schools. So I appreciate the back area where you're staying away from stuff. I do feel like I said, the Tennessee LIDAR stuff is really, really great info now, and it seems there's a whole slew of steep slopes and things back there. Have you had a geological survey done?
Tawana, let me interrupt a minute. I'm sorry, because it's 6 after 7 now. And like we said at the beginning, this is one of the first ones. They're going to be back here again. And I know you all have given them a lot of information that they're going to look into, especially you, Tawana. So I appreciate that. But I do want to ask, because I do know that there's some other people on here, and thank you for speaking up, Mr. Jones. I want to ask before we turn this off, are there comments by some other folks that are on here, or some information that you want to give, that when they take things back and look at it, that they can do that?
well, I do have a pretty good list of what was mentioned so far. So I do have those written down.
And I appreciate that, because I do see that you took a lot of things in consideration from our talk as well, and outlined them very well at the beginning for everybody. Like I said, if nobody else has something that they want to speak up very quickly about, it is about 8 after 9 now, and they will be back out here again. I know that, I don't know if it was next door or something, we had a lot of people talking, and I don't think they had been attending the meetings. So if you have some neighbors, if you're on here and you have some neighbors or some different people that are in 33 and have been talking about what is going up here, what are they looking at putting in there, please give them my Facebook or tell them where to go and send Rosie or Melody their information so that they can be on the email list, so that they can actually attend the meetings to hear exactly what is being done, and then they can give their input or their subtractions of what needs to be out. I know one thing that we are working with on all of our developers is the density. That's the first thing probably that I talked to you all about when you came to talk to me. So that is a big thing, and I need my District 33 folks to come out to the meetings if you're going to have inputs or questions about what's going on. I
Councilmember
want to
Lee,
thank you, gentlemen. Yes.
one quick thing.
Ms. Tawana? Yes.
Yes, it is. Sorry, there are 6 of the 8 nearest families, including the adjacent families to this, are non-English speaking. They are Spanish speaking. So if there is any way to get at least some basic info translated for them, there's a much higher concentration of non-English speaking next to this development than we generally have. And they've got
That
some
sounds
pretty big
good.
housing.
Developers, Mr.
Luana, what we
Developers.
can do, I'll be here for the next meeting and I'm a fluent Spanish speaker. So if they decide to join, I'm happy to translate for them.
But
So
need
when we
to
send the
tell
information
them-
out to them, Melanie, can the emails
I'll put
also
in
be
the
for
email
Spanish?
if you need Spanish services
Thank
to
you.
contact me directly. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Melanie. That's great.
And Mr. Hines, if you can throw your contact info in the chat also, that would be great.
I can do that.
Thank you, sir. And just remember, information coming from this. If there's any more information that you want to give before the next meeting or anything like that, please get that to Melanie or Rosie, because what we will do then is send that out to everybody that is on the database. And I want to thank you all again very much. I'm getting ready to, after 10 after, I'm getting ready to shut it down. I hope you enjoyed today. Today was a beautiful day. Yesterday was a beautiful day. I understand the weekend may be a little damp for us.
And for me. So hang in there.
Yep.
Yes,
Thank you very much,
yes.
Councilmember Lee. We appreciate the opportunity to talk with the community about our project.
And thank you for all the
Thank
notes
you
you're
all
taking and
for
making sure that
being
you are
here.
doing that. Say that again, please.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you for
all right.
being here.
We're just waiting on
Thank
his
y'all.
contact info.
I do
Oh,
also
yes,
want
please
to
don't
add,
forget to put that in there.
I want to add, if anyone does know anyone in the district that does not speak English, all of the YouTube videos that are posted of these meetings are translated to all languages. So if you have Arabic speaking community members or Spanish speaking, it's all translated on there so they can go and rewatch the meeting back in their preferred language.
That is super. How do they get to that?
If you just go to the video and turn on closed captions and just change it to whatever language you need it to be translated to, it auto generates the new captions.
That is amazing. Can you share that info in a? Could you put that in
Yeah,
Spanish?
I'll do a little tutorial on the next news blast that I send out.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you. That is great. Has the email been put out?
Yes, I put it in there.
Yay! All right. Thank you all, everyone, and you all have a good night. And thank you so very much, Melody.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Take
Night,
care.
y'all.
Bye now.